Are the American people fit to govern themselves, to rule themselves, to control them? I believe they are.
Let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. There is the love of God. And if you have any doubt concerning the love of God, look at the cross.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
And I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
We establish no religion in this country, nor will we ever. We command no worship. We mandate no belief. But we poison our society when we remove its theological underpinnings. We court corruption when we leave it bereft of belief.
All right, and welcome into American Heritage Live, everybody. My name is Jeff DeShazo. I'm your host. And across from me, the venerable Mr. Ron Meyer. How are you, Ron?
I am doing well. Don't listen to what anybody says. Today could be a real banner day for the boy.
Absolutely. I believe in banner days.
Good.
And in the booth is Mr. Daniel Connor. How are you, Daniel? Giving us his salutary wave. Appreciate you, Daniel. We don't thank you enough. And by the way, you don't have to be silent. You can always pipe in. Of course, we'll charge you by the minute, but you know the drill.
Yep. And happy birthday, Daniel.
Yes, happy birthday, Daniel. Is it his birthday?
No.
No, it's not. Why are you throwing me a curve with the birthday?
That's right. I wanted to keep you on your toes.
That's right. Well, I need you to keep me on my toes because I need keeping on my toes. Well, it's a delight to have in a guest we've been trying for some time to have in, the Honorable Congressman Spencer Bachus. Yes. 22 marvelous career in the House. And, you know, what I like about Congressman Bachus is no scandal. He came home and represented his state beautifully, well, with honor and respect. A beloved member. And, Congressman, it's great to have you here.
Yes.
Well, thanks. I'm glad to be on and I'm excited about us talking about
well, we are, too.
Different things.
We are very, very delighted to have you. And
now, I know you started out and said honorable and congressman. I'm not sure those words go together.
I always overdo that because I was raised by a Marine colonel and an engineer, and so I was born saluting, and so I always try to overdo that. I always err on the side of caution, Congressman.
Yeah, I was. I'm a member of Hunter Street, and Wednesday night we had Dr. Hogg from Sanford, the Beeson School.
Oh yeah,
and we're doing a series, or he is teaching a series on the providence of God, and he started out. One of the things he said is that when children are squabbling and they keep taking toys away from each other, you've got to say to them, look, you can't do that. You can't, when you get to be an adult and you start saying everything's mine, nothing's yours, unless you're a congressman, it's not going to work out.
Beautiful. Yeah. Now, he said that. We didn't say that.
No, I said.
That's right. That's right.
You heard Congressman. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the voice of Congressman Spencer Bachus. And I've got to ask you this, Congressman. What does it feel like to be retired? I mean, how do you feel now that you're officially, aren't you, retired now from Congress?
Well, and people ask me that every day, and I tell them when I announced I wasn't running, was the big difference, because immediately some of the stress that you don't realize you're under. But it was I enjoyed every day. I mean, there were things I didn't enjoy, but I was thankful for the opportunity, and I felt blessed. But I had a strong sense that I should not run. People say, were you called to run? I mean, was it a call? Well, I believe you should be. You should believe that you're called to run, or that you can make a difference. But I think you're also sometimes called not to run. And Linda and I both had a strong sense, a spiritual sense, that I shouldn't run. Now, I don't know why. Maybe it was time for someone else. Maybe it was that Gary.
Yeah,
Gary Palmer.
And sometimes you never know what God might have planned for you out of there, and He may not make it known to you. You know.
Well, that's true. And you know, the story of the Bible, Ron, is God laying on people's heart that they should or shouldn't do something, and we hear that a lot about that they should do something. We probably don't hear enough that this is not something I want you to do.
Yeah, check in your spirit sometimes. Yeah.
Well, let's shift gears and go into that very thing. Let's start at the beginning. As you know, Congressman, we spoke off air about one of the goals for the show American Heritage Live is to inspire people to prayerfully consider running for office. What does it take? We'd like for you to tell us how you got involved in politics to begin with.
And I think it's important that people that become involved or have a purpose. They have a mission. And for me, it wasn't to get in political office. It was, and my involvement comes really from being a state senator. I was elected to the state senate in 1982. Now go back there. George Wallace was elected governor that year.
Wow!
When he came back, and so we're talking about a long time ago. In 1980, a woman called me on the phone and asked me to represent her, and I was practicing law. Her son was killed by a drunk driver on his way home from school. And in representing her, I found that I knew that we didn't really have a repeat offender law for drunk drivers. And at first I thought, well, there's just no solution to this. I mean, people are going to drink, they're going to drive, they're going to kill people. Right. And it's sort of not like cancer, but it's, there's not a lot we can do. And then one Sunday morning, I went up and got the Birmingham News out of the yard and opened it up. And there was a story about a lady in California whose sister was killed by a drunk driver, and how she had gone in California and passed a repeat offender law. And suddenly it became clear to me, and this man had 7 prior DUIs within just a matter of years, but each one of them had been reduced. And what I came to know is that if you have laws, the first one you're sort of warned, you go through you go through classes, and you're given a second chance. Second time it's more intense. The third time, tremendous intervention, and a jail sentence. And even the second there's a jail sentence of 2 days, which doesn't sound like a lot. Anyway, so I went to Montgomery. I lobbied my senator and my representative, and I ended up, when I didn't get the answer I wanted, I ran for the state senate. And I passed that law.
Wow.
Let's do this. Our producer is giving us indication it's time to take a break. On the other side, what we'll do, Congressman, if you will, is we'll begin to roll out answers some of these questions that are on our heart. You're listening to American Heritage Live in the voice of Congressman Spencer Bachus, who is retiring from the 6th District, serving over 22 years faithfully in office in the House on your behalf in Washington, D.C. Don't go away, folks. We'll be right back. Jim King is a concerned American and one of our sponsors and friends here on American Heritage Live. Jim is on the board of the Hedges and Highways Prison Ministry. They provide adults and teens leaving prison with assistance in these areas: counseling, support groups, assistance in finding housing and employment, food and clothing and education. Right now, they're raising funds for gift bags, which includes items not provided in prisons. These items include toothpaste, washcloth, shaving cream, soap, and shampoo. It is amazing how many are in prison without any connection to family or friends. These gift bags will lift their spirits and allow them to feel support from a ministry that will help them once they get out. Hedges and Highways is a 501c3 organization, so all contributions are tax deductible. At the moment, their goal is to raise $20,000 for the gift bags, and they need your help. please make checks payable to Hedges and Highways Prison Ministry, P.O. Box 112075, Birmingham, Alabama 35211. Or call Director Lois Gardner for more information. That number is 205-516-5634. 205-516-5634. Please call them today. Hi, everybody. This is Jeff DeShazo, host of American Heritage Live. I'd like to tell you about my real estate business with Keller Williams Realty. For the past 17 years, I have been serving the greater Birmingham area. When it comes to life's experiences, few areas give more satisfaction than owning your own home. This is a part of the American dream. Perhaps you own a home and would like a free comparative market analysis before you list it to sell. Or you may need to downsize, or need a larger home. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or considering buying a second home for your family vacations, whatever your needs are, I invite you to call me today at 205-223-7653, or you can visit my website at jeffdeshazo.com. That's Jeff, DESHAZO.com, and there you can request free listing alerts for any houses you like to be sent to you. I'd also like to send you my free mobile phone app for your smartphone, where you can search for houses over your phone. Please call me today at 205-223-SOLD. That's 205-223-7653. 223-7653. And together, we'll make real estate your estate. And welcome back into American Heritage Live. I'm your host, Jeff DeShazo. With me, across from me, as always, faithfully, and my friend and co-host Ron Meyer. And you were listening previously before the break to Congressman Spencer Bachus' voice. And Ron, you had a question for the Congressman.
Oh, yeah. Congressman, I have I guess everybody has this on their hearts right now. Where are we going as a country? What is the climate right now? Republicans have swept in the Congress, gotten a majority into the Senate now. Are we going to see any kind of compromising in the days ahead, or is it going to be open warfare with the president?
We have to negotiate and we have to compromise, but we can remain true to our principles. And sometimes we are able to do that, but many times we cannot compromise because the issue is just one that is too important. And this is a wonderful country. We're blessed. I've been overseas. I never fail when I come back that I don't feel like getting down on the ground and thanking God for what He's given us. It hadn't it won't always be this way, but I have faith that we'll get over this. I think the last election, the American people sent a pretty strong message, and I have faith in the construction of our institutions, our balance of power between the three branches.
Sure.
But I have more faith in the people that they will they'll change, and they'll sometimes when they will send a strong message. They did this time.
Yeah. They sure did. They sure did. I wanted to ask you this too, Congressman. We kind of skipped this question, but I want to go back because we were talking before the break about how you got involved in politics, why you decided to run initially. So we're doing a look back. That's what we're doing over this hour, a look back over your career. And so before we go too much further, I wanted to ask you two things. What was your biggest accomplishment that you were most proud of in your heart? May not be what we expect you to say. And what would you do differently if you were starting over?
Oh, I'd always do things differently. The National Cemetery. My father was a World War II veteran. My uncles, and we realized that there's no national cemetery here. There's one in Mobile that's full, and we started working on that back when my father was in his 70s and healthy. And I actually lost him before that cemetery opened.
Did you really?
But we were able to the World War II veterans that we got it completed, and a good number have been buried there. You never know the future. If you think you know what's going to happen tomorrow, you don't. We didn't know about Afghanistan. We didn't know about Iraq. But I've been out there where our young soldiers are buried and our World War II vets, and there's just a tremendous amount of pride that they're being buried in the National Cemetery there next to the American Village, and it sends a message that we love you, we love your sacrifice, we value it, and this is for you. And that's what that cemetery is for those who bled and died and risked their life for our country.
I've been there, and a couple of times. It's beautiful. It's the closest thing to Arlington we have in Alabama. It's breathtaking, actually. And I'll tell you just a quick anecdote. I went to one of the little pavilions, and accidentally, I pressed the button. I was curious what it did, and what it did, it automated a automatic taps call that came over the loudspeaker, and I was alone in the cemetery. And tears began to roll down my face, and I stood there. There was no stopping the taps, and I just stood at attention and watched the markers, and tears began to just flow down my face. And I had a moment. And I will never forget that as long as I live. It's like the Lord allowed that to happen for me because he knows how patriotic I am, but I love that place.
Well, I was called on to give the opening remarks when we dedicated the cemetery.
That's right.
And I said in those remarks, if I had 10 years ago, if I'd been called on to do this, I would have said this is about our soldiers and our wars. But I actually said, today it's about love. It's about fathers and brothers and daughters and sons and grandfathers and best friends in college and or high school or next door neighbor. It's about that we love them and they love us, and it is. I think it's a demonstration of our love and our respect. And it's all about our freedom.
And if you've never been there, ladies and gentlemen, let me encourage you to go. It's down toward Montevallo. You can't miss it on 119. Ron, you had a question for the Congress?
Well, yeah. If we're going from that to helplessness being felt in the country right now, and we're battling a war against terrorists. It seems like we don't have a direction as to exactly what we're going to do to take them out. Is there any sense? Has there been any sense in the Congress of a direction is? Because I don't think we're getting it from the president, are we?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say this. I'm going to issue a disclaimer and say that General Krulak, is at Birmingham Southern, I think he's just announced he may be stepping down. He is the strategist in the Marines. My son was in the Marines, and he's a good friend of mine. Mm-hmm. I would have him on the show, and he's a wonderful, dedicated person. Having said that, not speaking with anything near the wisdom or the authority of him, we've had 12 years of not getting it right. Part of that is that the Middle East is a struggle of but Shias and Sunnis have been killing each other for 2,000 years.
Long time.
Well, actually 1,400 years, and it's a family fight in a way. I say family. They don't act like family, but I represented the Birmingham Police, the FOP, at one time. Answering a domestic call is the most dangerous thing law enforcement does. And when we talk about these going back and avenging things for hundreds of years, you're getting involved in a Shias and Sunnis who some of them hate each other. And I think the long-term answer has got to be that the Muslim community has got to disavow this radicalism, and it's a radicalism. And we're in a war. We're not. They're not criminal acts. They're actual war. When people commit these, they ought to be tried before a military tribunal.
I agree totally.
and we shouldn't burden our. This isn't a larceny case or a. And they're not American citizens. We should not accord them
our rights.
And
I agree totally. Again,
they can bankrupt us with this sort of thing. And then we got to be smarter at the airports. Taking toothpaste away from 80-year-old women. I hear that. Why are we doing that? And the answer is we shouldn't be. We could, this political correctness that we have. We need to get over that, and we need to realize that this is serious. And if we intervene, we need to intervene with tremendous force, but we need to be very careful when and if we intervene, because many times we destabilize and just get involved in a mess.
Sleeper cells. We hear often the growing concern of sleeper cells that have been here, I think, for a couple of decades now, if not longer. You are trained, watching, waiting for the cues. What can be done practically to uncover those, Congressman?
Well, and that, Jeff, is one of the questions we struggle with in Congress is with the Patriot Act and surveillance. The balance between civil liberties and our freedom from the government not intervening and tracking our movements and our need for security. Now, when we're in a war, in World War II, we sacrificed some of these liberties, particularly when, in my mind, people that want to destroy our nation or terrorists should not be accorded those liberties, and we got to have a lot of wisdom when we construct these laws.
Well, it's a perfect time for us to take another break and get ready for our second segment here on American Heritage Live. You've been listening to the voice of Congressman Spencer Bachus, who served faithfully in office in the House for over 22 years. We are delighted to have him on the show with us here, and hope you stay with us. Don't forget, you can stream the show live at 977thepeach.com. Ron and I'll be right back after the break.
Strong in the faith, Lord, you are the refuge that I can't wait to get to, 'cause I can't let a day go, can't let a day go by.
This is Alexa Likas James with the Well House, and you're listening to American Heritage Live with Jeff DeShazo and Ron Meyer.
Birmingham is ranked in the top 10 for hottest housing markets for 2014. So whether you're a first-time home buyer, buying a second family home, or perhaps needing to downsize, be sure and call Sonny Maynor with Hometown Lenders. Sonny continuously operates from the core belief that exceeding expectations is the only way to do business. Sonny delivers this pledge through unsurpassed customer service. Using leading-edge technology, he can provide the most innovative and creative financing solutions available. At Hometown Lenders, Sonny makes sure that each customer receives the highest level of personalized service and communication throughout the entire loan process, guaranteed. If you like, you can even close your loan right in your own living room. Call Sonny Maynor today at 205-440-2444, 205-440-2444, or go to his website at 989-7171.com. With Sonny Maynor and Hometown Lenders, people before profits isn't just a catchphrase. It's the way they do business every day. Friends, have you been in a car accident recently and need to get some body work done, or do you need a new paint job for that favorite car? Then write this down. Homewood Auto Body Specialists. That's where you need to go. They are locally owned and have been in business for over 23 years. Brad Phillips is the owner and Hubert Underwood is the manager. Most of the staff have been with Brad for over 20 years. Homewood Auto Body Specialists are located at 96 Robert Jemison Road in Homewood. A member of the Better Business Bureau, they service foreign and domestic cars and are ICAR and ASE certified. And yes, they'll provide free estimates. Their equipment is state-of-the-art to handle all of your collision-related work, and the staff trains constantly to stay up to date with all the latest techniques. All services are guaranteed as long as you own your car. They are a direct repair facility and do business with most all insurance companies. They are open Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 5 o'clock p.m. Call them today at 205-941-2410, 205-941-2410. That's Homewood Auto Body Specialists.
I feel like a blind man in
and welcome back in for our second segment on American Heritage Live. I'm your host, Jeff DeShazo. Across from me, Ron Meyer in the booth, Daniel Connor, our silent partner. You know, Ron, Daniel, anytime you can chime in, you have a microphone. The invitation's open. And our very special guest, of course, is Congressman Spencer Bachus. And Ron, you had a question next.
Yes, thanks, Jeff. It almost feels, it seems that we are experiencing an attack on our religious beliefs in this country. Christians are now under the gun. Jeff brought out something on Facebook about hundreds of thousands of Christians that are being persecuted. We're hearing about Christians that own businesses that are being made to serve gay community, even though that isn't in their belief system. I know there are cases coming up at the Supreme Court down the road here. I think the Catholic Church is one of them. We look back at this and we look at these activist judges that are overruling what people are voting for and stand for. What's going to happen with this? How does this turn around, or doesn't it?
Well, I was reading Revelations 20 just recently, and I saw a verse in there, and Revelation scares me, so it's not my favorite thing to read.
You're not the only one.
No, so but Alan Hansen, who's Dick Shelby's chief of staff, had sent me a verse from Revelations 21, where a new heaven and a new earth. So I went and I was reading the context of that. It's a gorgeous scripture. And the chapter before it, actually, I'd never seen this, and it said, "Those that were beheaded in my name shall rise first." Now, if I'd read that 3 years ago, I would have thought somewhat dated. People don't do that anymore. They will again. They are today in the Middle East. We're in the United States. I mean, who 20 years ago would have thought that a city couldn't put up a manger scene?
Nobody.
Nobody, because actually, read what the Constitution says. It says that there shall be no law preventing the free exercise of religion. By that, it means that the federal government is not supposed to tell us we can't have a manger scene or we can't express our views. You had the Chick-fil-A thing. Buddy Gray, my pastor, mentioned Sunday the fire chief of Atlanta.
In Atlanta.
He's a member of a Southern Baptist church, and in a book, he was talking about his faith, and he commented on what he believed privately. I mean, this is his private beliefs.
Sure.
And the mayor of Atlanta called him in and summarily fired him. What happened to our being able to express our beliefs in a book? I mean, he didn't say he was going to kill anybody or break any criminal law. He just expressed his views.
So what happens with all this? I look back at the courts. They're overturning the cases. They're overturning the votes of people. California is a great example, coming out against gay marriage, right? And the courts overturned it, and it's state after state. What if anything can be done about this?
Well, what you're talking about is one of the wonderful things about this country is rule of law. And when the president did what he did on immigration, and I have been actually one that has advocated, we have 12 million people here. We can't separate families. Some are citizens, some aren't. We need to approach it with compassion. But what he did was, he violated the Constitution. Now, a lot of the people that come to our country are coming here because they're from a country where there's no rule of law. And the rule of law, he's disregarding it. And so are some of, I think, our judges when they are suddenly ruling in the way they are. Now, we can't impose our religious beliefs on others.
That's right.
But I think as a country, let's just talk about, not what I believe or what you believe, because we all have a little different. We believe the basics, but we all should believe in family values. Now, when somebody said, "What is family values?" Value the family, and I believe that that's where we, it's not about calling somebody, you violate the Bible, you do this. It's just about we as a country, part of it is our tradition, but it's very important that you value the family. And we don't. In so many government policies actually devalue the family.
What can be done, as Ron mentioned about the judges who are legislating from the bench, activist judges, what recourse does the American public have to check that?
There's somewhat of a blind spot in the Constitution because I don't think the framers ever even suspected
envision that, yeah,
that the judges would disregard a law. Now, there was in the Federalist paper. There's some comments about that the biggest danger is going to be, a judge doing something like they're doing. I think it goes back to misinterpreting the Constitution, misinterpreting, confusing that we have a right to say, okay, this is a marriage and this isn't. Not even from a religious standpoint, because not because we're Christians or not because we're a certain faith, but just simply because we say that a marriage ought to be between a man and a woman, and we're being attacked for that. Now, we also, I was reading, I get the Missouri Baptist paper, which is a great paper, sort of like the Alabama Baptist, Missouri. And a pastor said in there, now, as Christians, we need to realize we speak about homosexuality, but we also speak against lying.
Sure.
We speak against sex outside marriage. So we speak about a lot of things that we welcome these people into the church. And I'm not categorizing this as
that's right.
worse than that. I'm not condemning, we've got to allow people as long as they don't hurt other people. But at the same time, this is majority rule, and we're democracy, and we've got to kind of separate some of that. It's a tough question. It really is.
Yeah, it's. I think he makes a great point, the congressman, that I think the church for a long time has made a fatal mistake of majoring on certain sins and highlighting those, like you were alluding to. And what it's done is it's drawn backlash and persecution to the church because you're wounding people and you're hurting people.
That's right.
Instead of caring for the individual and approaching people as Jesus would. Jesus was with the most questionable elements of society, and the religious people he had the hardest time with, and he loved to kind of tweak their noses and say, "No, wait a minute."
Well, he used to say, "Wait a minute, him that is without sin."
Yeah, that's right.
And you're absolutely right, and we need to realize that we speak against drunkenness, yet we allow alcohol. We've learned that the government can't, and I say that drunkenness is not alcohol. I don't want to associate those two at all. But I mean, it is, it's one of those things that it's a tough one. But it's, I don't think that when it comes to abortion, that's tough.
Oh.
Now, I really don't. I mean, I just simply believe that no matter what your religious beliefs are, that abortion is destructive for the family and family values, and that it's against God's will. And I think it is in a category by itself because it's a shedding of innocent blood.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, God is the giver of life, and the Constitution talks about the giver, the creator of life, and so. That's part of our heritage.
Is the church being very exceptionally quiet during these times. I don't hear people rising up and saying, "What are you guys doing?" You know.
You're talking about overall, Ron?
Yeah, overall, in speaking out about some of the issues that we face today in the country.
Well, I think there part of that is we respect democracy and the American system and the judicial branch even. But when we see them go too far with a judge saying, I don't care what the people think, I don't know what the law's passed, I don't care that it doesn't take away anybody's right. We're too forgiving of that. We just think, well, that's the way it's going to be. And we can change it, and we need to. But I think what Jeff says is sometimes we focus on certain things. We don't focus on others. Mm-hmm. We don't focus on, gossip, which is a very destructive thing.
There you go.
And we don't, we gossip about people. Sometimes we don't really.
Yeah, we don't think that's a sin.
Yeah, we don't throw people out, or we don't say that.
Speaking for yourself right now.
I'm just saying, overall. But he's absolutely right. And again, I would just add, and we'll take a break here, but, we all have our, quote, pet sins that we tend to maybe cast that first stone and throw the first rock, and we need to look in the mirror. Well, maybe I have a great big belly over here, and maybe I got a problem eating too much. I better look in the mirror and examine my own heart.
That's right.
Before the Lord, before I start casting stones.
And I think that's very scriptural. Jesus basically said, "Look, we need to bring people in. I need to be with the sinners."
That's right.
And we're all sinners.
That's right.
Well, we'll come back after the break with Congressman Spencer Bachus. You're listening to American Heritage Live. Don't forget you can stream us live at 977 The Peach if you need to step away. We'll be back.
This is Richard Simmons, author of True Measure of a Man. You've been listening to American Heritage Live with Jeff DeShazo and Ron Meyer.
Where do you go to order a property title or schedule a closing on a home? Call Jason Ingram, closing agent and account executive with USA Title of Alabama. USA handles property searches statewide and can close loans at your home or work, the agent's office, or a point in between. You'll love their website where you can monitor your transaction 24 hours a day using their Sure Close technology. And you can also print off documents needed for your closing. At USA, they are dedicated to providing superior service when searching property records, serving as escrow and closing agent, and issuing title insurance for their customers. USA is also a great asset for buyers and sellers and real estate agents that are looking for a flexible partner that can close anywhere. Call Jason Ingram today with USA Title of Alabama at 205-876-1560. 205-876-1560 for your title and closing needs. Or just go to their website at usatitleal.com.
What does it mean to be saved? Isn't it more than just a prayer to pray? More than just a way to heaven? What does it mean to be his? To be formed in his likeness? Know that we have a purpose. Here's our purpose. To be salt and light in the world, to be salt and light in the world.
And welcome back into American Heritage Live. I'm your host, Jeff DeShazo, and special guest is Congressman Spencer Bachus. We're delighted to have him. And thank you, Ron, for reminding me of the question that I skipped over. It's right in front of me. And I did want to ask this question. Congressman, now that you are officially retired, we were trying to talk off here, what do you call a retired congressman? You still call him congressman.
That's
we
right.
Figured that out. Because he retains that title the rest of his life.
Yeah, of course, my wife doesn't call me.
You better listen to what she called you. Right, that's right.
But having the vantage point of looking back over 22 years, and this is a deeply personal question. It's not a stock question. But what do you want Americans to know? your country, the people you served for, and what is the one thing, if you could speak to the whole nation right now, what is the one thing you want them to know now?
That this is a wonderful country, and we're terribly concerned with where it's headed, what's going on in Washington, but count your blessings. There's still more there's dishonesty in government, but there's still much more honest government than what you see in a lot of countries. There are a lot of dedicated people in Washington, people of principle. Our Alabama delegation, there's just some incredibly wonderful members of both our congressmen and our senators. I mean, it's a fantastic group. I'm very happy for Gary. I'm excited. If I was more excited for Gary, I think I was more excited. And if it had been Paul, I'd probably felt.
We're speaking about Congressman Gary Palmer.
Yeah, I mean, but I was so excited for him on election night, and he hasn't changed. I've seen people that are lawyers. They get on the bench and they almost overnight change. The Peter principle. But I've noticed that he's the same Gary Palmer that he was the day before he was voted to be the congressman, and I think he's really doing a good job. But so I'd tell people, have faith, but I would also tell them the government is not the cornerstone of our country. It's our beliefs in God. It's our family and value the family, as I said. It is our resilience. It is our dedication to hard work and individual freedom, and those I don't think you've seen a change there. And we have a right to change that at the ballot box. I don't have that right in a lot of countries.
That's right. Don't have those free elections, right?
Yeah. Well, you just mentioned something before that always perks me up. You see the best in people there, too. We hear so much about the worst of our representatives in Washington and how crooked and self-centered and all the garbage stuff, and a lot of it may be true. How about some instances where that isn't true, where people have a heart for doing what they feel is right for the country and they're not after their own personal interests?
Oh, yeah, I've worked on a lot of issues with my fellow Democrats, and I've felt a real identity. And these are tough problems, but we've got the highest incarceration rate in the world.
Yeah,
and we send a lot of young folks away. They're addicted to drugs and they're taking the wrong path. But sometimes we put them on probation twice, and then we send them away for 20 years. And we've got to find better ways to do that. Education. We are actually 17th out of 17 countries in job training. A job. That's how people get self-esteem.
Yes.
That's how they support their family. The government can't create jobs, but it can require that our educational system equip people for a job. And I think, and I'm wondering all around.
No, that's going all right.
I think our country made a mistake in 1913 when we passed two of our amendments to the Constitution. One was the direct election of senators before they were appointed by the states, and the second one was the income tax. At that time, 80% of government was local and state. Less than 20% of the money went to Washington. As late as 1948, two-thirds of the money was still being spent at a local and state level. Now it goes to Washington. I think you'd see a real change in the effectiveness of government if we return most of government to the state and local level. What do you want out of government? What do you want? you want national defense, but beyond that, most of the things you want, I think the state and local government ought to have full sway. Schools, parks, police protection, fire protection, garbage, sanitation, water, and roads. Establish a federal highway system. But now, the mayor of Vestavia, I was at a leadership Vestavia meeting, and he was talking about, we did get this change, but to get a sidewalk approved, he had to go to Washington. And it drove up the cost to 2.5 times what it would have cost. Now, we finally changed some of that foolishness. But, we have fire chiefs that are coming up, and they're saying, we need a grant for a fire truck. We need a grant for some respirator. And I almost feel like apologizing and saying, I'm sorry we took all the money, and that you have to come up here. It ought to stay with the local community. That's the government closest to people. You can't go see your. People say, "Boy, I'm glad you saw me. I was able to meet with you." Well, they can go there. They see their city councilman in church, or
that's right,
or at the ballpark. They see their mayor. They can walk in there and they can go to a city council meeting. Many decisions in Washington, you don't even know who's making them. I don't even know who's making them.
Wow.
Let's do this. Let's transition a little bit because we spoke off air about your faith and some on air about your faith, how it affects your decision-making when you served in Washington and your daily life. But you mentioned something to me off air and Ron about how, and I want you to recapture that. I don't want to say what you said. I want you to say it and share it with your will about how you felt when you first began to run for office, what that meant to you, what you described that.
Oh, I felt inspired by God, and it was to go to the state senate and make sure that when I stood in a little boy's room near Montefiore, I saw those model airplanes, hanging down from the ceiling on a string, and I saw his bed, and I saw his Little League trophies, and I thought, the government's failed him. Mm-hmm. A law would have saved this young boy. There's no doubt in my mind. The same for the woman I represented, her son, in North Jefferson County. The government can be the difference in life or death. And I'm not talking about it from an eternal perspective, but I mean, it can fail us to the extent that it cost us a little boy's life. When a plane crashes, they used to list all the 200 and something people that are killed, and you see the grandfathers, you see 2 students coming home from school. When we passed repeat offender laws for DUI and we enforce them, we target those that habitually drive drunk. And we save hundreds of lives in the state of Alabama a year. Now, if you ask someone, if we pass a law and it will prevent an airplane from crashing in our state and taking 200 lives a year, would we do it? And we say, of course we would. Of course we would. But then you say, well, this guy's got to feed his family. In fact, he's had 2 priors, but and government, the wrong decisions in Washington are going to, they can cost us our culture and our heritage and, we may not have what we may not be able to get off that airplane, like I said earlier, say, thank God for America. It's the greatest country on the face of the earth.
But do you see people that are like-minded? I mean,
there's a lot of dedicated Christians in Congress. There are a lot of dedicated members that aren't Christians, Jewish members, others.
Sure.
But that are dedicated public servants. I think you'd be surprised at how many good people there are in office. A lot of, you mentioned earlier, Ron, we read these things about members of Congress, and there's always that guy that goes up there. He's elected, and he has a bad marriage, and some young woman gets his attention, and he embarrasses all of us. That's not the me. I mean, there are many, many strong families, members that devoted to their wife, devoted to their children, would never consider. I mean, we're,
Well, that's where I was going with that, Congressman. Yeah. It's that, we talk about how down people are about the government, how much gridlock there is in the government. But we don't hear about what you're sharing right now, and this is both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, there's a hunger on both sides of the aisle
right.
to end this name calling, this character assassination. The outside groups contribute to a lot of this. They make stuff up. You can make up anything on the internet. I would tell you that probably 2/3 of the thing you read about members and they're accused of doing things are absolutely just somebody wanting to sell a story or a book. And it's just, and the papers don't do a good job they do a good job of publishing the accusations when it's found to totally be a factual lie, and then they don't do a great job of following up and said, he said X, Y, Z, it's an absolute lie. I mean, call it what it is. But I'm optimistic, but at the same time, the history of the world tells us that countries go off, they go wrong, and there's nothing that, if our country turns its back on what made it great, it'll go the way of we saw that of Judah and Israel did in the Old Testament.
Yeah,
Congressman, I wanted to ask you. We talked off air earlier about this very subject. Would you take a minute and just talk to the person who might be considering, who's listening, who might be considering running for office? He's listening. He or she is listening to you right now. And it's in their heart to run. Maybe they're scared. They don't know how to go about it, how they should move forward. Would you just kind of speak to them from your heart about what's involved and just however you want to mentor them a minute and kind of talk to them?
The first thing I would ask them, whether they're a man or woman, are you married? If you have children, needs to be, you need to, if you've made a decision you'd like to run, you need to sit down, and your wife needs to be 100% supportive. I don't know if you noticed, Gary Palmer said the first thing he did is he went to Ann.
That's right.
And he said, I'm thinking about it, but I want to know, you've got to be behind me. And it's got to be right for his family, and right at that time. Not maybe, if it's not at that time, maybe later. But even before that, or maybe that's got to be part of it. That's a requirement. Another requirement is not that he thinks it'd be fun, not that he thinks that he could be famous, but does he think he can make a difference? Does he have a mission? And is this going to be a ministry for him? I mean, does he want to help people? Does he want to make things better for people? Or does he just want to make a name for himself? And even I can tell you that in our state legislature, these guys, it's with their salary, it's and it used to be, not as much now, but it's still a sacrifice for them. Most of them could probably make more money by staying here and devoting full time to their profession. I know my 4 years of law practice, when I came out of the legislature, I had less business than when I went in. And so we shouldn't make blanket accusations. I don't usually read comments on when I'm mentioned in the paper, because there's always 4 or 5 people that say they're all crooks. And you were talking about earlier about we all have our sins. There's a guy that always gets on, every time that I'm in an article, he gets on and talks about that I'm crooked. And he goes on and on. Well, I started following him because he said the same thing about some others, and even some CEOs of big businesses here in the state. And I've noticed that he's very forgiving and sensitive, and has really a heart for those with drug addictions, because his son was an addicted drug addict. He's addicted to drugs, and it pretty much destroys him. So when people come on in articles and they say, well, this guy, it was a drug overdose. He comes on and correctly says this was an individual. This was someone's son. This was someone's daughter. Mm-hmm. And you don't know what that family went through. And this was probably a young boy that just the first time he was on drugs, he wasn't thinking of that. It was just somebody offered him something, and now he's dead. This is not a drug overdose. This is the death of an individual human being. And I like that part of him. I don't like the part where he just accuses people of being crooks. And I almost want to say to him, can't you have that same heart and give me the benefit of the doubt? And every time I'm accused of something, can't you say, well, we don't know that.
I love that. I love that. We've got about 4 minutes left, folks, on our show. You're listening to American Heritage Live and the voice of Congressman Spencer Bachus, who's now retired from serving in the House for over 22 years. Gary Palmer was his elected replacement, and for a long time service, Congressman Bachus, for, I know, a long time I was looking over your career, the House Financial Services Committee from January 2011 to just this year. Remember the Alabama House of Representatives, 1984 to 1987. Remember the Alabama Senate. A lot of people forget that you served in the Alabama Senate first, from 1983 to 84. Mm-hmm. And married to the lovely Linda Bachus.
No, the very lovely.
The very lovely. Oh, you win props for that.
Lovely inside.
Lovely inside.
She is, she's a wonderful, wonderful Christian wife. She's, we probably have a little trouble in our family. They say the male's supposed to be the spiritual mentor.
Right.
Well, if I don't mentor, she does.
You're on notice.
Yeah, she's. I'll tell you, she's wonderful. She's just.
Well, please give our best to Linda,
Thank you.
We hope that you'll consider coming back on a show when you can carve out some time. We'll call you and see if that works for you.
Well, if you don't get so much negative feedback from this.
Hey, listen,
no, this will be a classic.
Yeah.
We never ask people for feedback. If it's negative, we tell them, please just keep it to yourself.
Right.
Yeah. So we never worry about
Thank
that.
you. Well, we'll talk about being grandfathers.
There you go.
There's nothing like that.
That's right.
Well, in our final 2 minutes, we always want to give an opportunity for folks to come to know the Lord, because this show is about America's Christian heritage. So those of you who are listening to Ron and Congressman Bachus, I want to invite you to do something. You may be driving to and from church or about to go to brunch, and you know that something's missing. You're hurting. There's no answer. You've tried everything. You've tried pharmaceuticals. You've tried substances. You've tried habits. They're not working. Maybe you're in the middle of addiction of some sort right now. Why don't you pray with me, and let's introduce you to the one who can change your life. He changed Congressman Bachus's life. He changed my life. He changed Ron's life. Pray with me. Lord Jesus. That's right. Just pray with me. Lord Jesus, I surrender my heart to you right now. You take it. Take my life. Forgive me of sin. Come in. Clean me from the inside out. Give me a new heart as you promised to do. And I will live for you and serve you faithfully. And I will study your word and grow and become like you. In the name of Jesus. Amen. And if you prayed that from your heart, and I believe you did, you've become a new creature, according to Corinthians. You're a new creature in Christ, and there's no better life for you now. So let me urge you to go to a local church, get plugged in, and as always, we want to thank our sponsors. Sonny Maynard with Hometown Lenders, Jim King of Hedges and Highways Ministry, Brad Phillips and Homewood Auto Body Specialist, Jason Ingram with USA Title of Alabama, and myself, I'm a sponsor too, Jeff DeShaza with Keller Williams Realty in Hoover. And don't forget, you can check out our YouTube tab on Facebook for all our archive shows. And, Ron, it's been a pleasure to have the Congressman here.
Oh, it's wonderful. We thank you very much.
Yes.
Appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Well, join us next week, folks, again from 11 to noon right here on 97.7 The Peach. So long, everybody.